and welcome to Rolling with Two. I'm Will, and with me, as always, is the satisfactorily spooky one herself,
Sarah?
And today we're doing a two-player perspective and accessibility for Spook Manor. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right. Players are trying to restore Spook Manor through drafting room cards and placing them in various spots to score the most points. So, Will, how do the rules change for two players?
There are no changes for two players. It basically says set it up, 23 cards to each player, and that's the same for 2 or 6 or whatever player count you go for.
So there is no bot.
No, there is no spooky nanoman to haunt your dreams. as nice as that would be. Okay.
So moving on, two-player issues. The biggest problem is that you just don't see enough cards. I mean, you see about a third of the deck, I think?
Less than a third of the deck. So the deck has 156 cards. In a two-player game, you see 46 of them.
Yeah.
That makes it tough to rely on any scoring metric in there.
Because here's the thing. It's one large deck. You randomly shuffle it. Well, I mean, that's what shuffling does. You shuffle it, and then you deal out 23 cards. So there's the likelihood that either none of something will show up, or very few, or things will get clumped. I mean, it makes the game kind of a little unfun at that point.
Yeah, it kills the strategy that's baked into the game.
Right.
So it's almost turns it into, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's then the game is playing you more, because when you get a hand of cards, there is almost always going to be a best choice, or they're all going to be bad choices, which is never good when you're trying to strategize.
Right. Now, to aid in this, we did come up with a two-player variant that we posted up on BGG, so go there, check it out, and we'll talk more about that in the review section for Spook Manor.
Yep. All right, so moving on to what it does well for two players. The nice thing is that going back and forth, you can rely on cards coming back to you, so it's, I wouldn't say greatly more tactical, but it is slightly more tactical.
Right. And that's kind of where this game sits for a two-player game. Is it's like on the fringe of being tactical, or just pay attention to what the other person's doing. Maybe you can eke out a few more points and hopefully win.
Yeah. So that's all we've got to say about two-player experience. Moving on to accessibility. Orange and red. Now, the orange and red creeples are not so bad. You can tell those apart. The orange and red, when it's on the cards, is very, very, very hard to tell apart. And so this is a thing that affects everybody. Just because red and orange are so close to each other on the color spectrum, you don't have to be colorblind to have an issue with red and orange being in a game together. So this was a very unfortunate choice to make. Yeah.
Also, speaking with icons, very small. The paintings and
the entertainment
icons are just so small. In fact, you were telling me that to tell the paintings apart, you just had to look at it and go, what is it not?
Right.
Oh, okay, then it's a painting.
Yeah, so they made the mistake of doing more artistic choices for icons rather than like what we've talked about in the past. You want to keep icons simple. The fire rooms are just a flame, so that's very simple. The monster rooms have just 2 creepy eyes. Very simple. The entertainment one took me a long time to try to figure out what it was. It was a gramophone, right? That's what I told you?
It's a gramophone.
But honestly, the first time I looked at it, it looked like a snail. I mean, just because it was this weird shape thing. And then, like you said, the portrait is just so small, and there's so much detail in there that those two do not work at an at-a-glance reminder of what's going on. I would look at it, and I'm like, okay, what is it not? And then it's like, okay, that's a portrait, because that's the only thing left. So, yeah.
Yeah, then the next accessibility is something that I don't think we really bring up much.
No.
The rule book is lacking in a number of elements. There are a number of components that it just doesn't even list.
Right, and it doesn't say to hand them out. And so when it gets to talking about them in the rules, you're like, well, process of elimination, I guess this component is what they're talking about.
Yeah, there is a scorecard that deals with the various flame or the lighting elements.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. It's a scorecard. You wouldn't know that because it doesn't cover that in the components. We initially thought that was a reference card.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, here's a bunch of icons. Yeah, it's duplicating a few things, but it's showing them in different colors. So yeah, it's covering all the icons that we can expect. No, it's actually a game component that is used at the end of the game for scoring.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice to have that. Plus, there are a number of cards that have what are called the creeple symbol. Now, this game comes with little creepies that are meeple shaped, so they're creeples. Those icons on the card, they don't really talk about.
Yeah.
We just had to infer the fact that, oh, they're there to represent being there for paintings, because the paintings are what calls for them. But we're never really introduced to that concept. So the rule book has a number of issues that you have to really read into.
And there's this nice dry erase scoreboard with a dry erase pen. Also, those are never mentioned anywhere.
Maybe that was like a bonus for pre-ordering.
That's the only thing I could think of, is that they added it at the last minute as we could fit this in, and they do, and they didn't update the rule. I mean, that's not a big thing because you don't need it. You could just use a piece of paper, or like I use BG Stats and just, put in all the scores. But yeah, so agreed, the rule book leaves a lot to be desired. The other thing is going to be also a bit of a challenge is there's square cards. Square cards are great in a lot of instances, and I understand why they're picked here, because rooms, you want them to be squares so they fit together. You don't have any weirdness.
It'd be also easier than shuffling a whole bunch of tiles.
Right. But as with 156, they are very hard to shuffle. Now, there's a good quality, so they're bendable. So we've tried some very stiff square cards that just
cut your hands.
Yeah. So at least they're bendable, but 156 is just a lot to shuffle. So you're going to have to do a lot of split piles, shuffle, do cuts, shuffle again. So there you go. The cognitive.
Yes. So the gameplay itself is very fast. It's very easy to play. You essentially have 4 cards in your hand. You choose one, you add it to your manor following the rules. Either goes left and right of the manor or on top of other rooms. Simple. What really makes this game like smack up against a brick wall cognitively is at the end of the game, all the scoring that's involved. You have to look at how tall each of your columns are. You have to look at where all the lighting icons are in all the different colors. Make sure to get all of those. Look at the points that are on the cards. Check out the entertainment rooms to make sure that the right meeples are there, and whatever ones are there, what do they score? Check out the paintings, see what's adjacent to them. Make sure you're not duplicating any of that. And by the time all that is said and done, that's almost half the game.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you want to do well during the game, you have to keep all that in mind. So it's not just as simple as, ooh, I think this room would look pretty above this room or whatever. You've got all these different scoring metrics that you need to keep in mind while you're playing the game so that you can do well, although you think I probably overvalue that.
Yeah, because like we talked about, and what we dislike is the fact that we're playing with less than a third of all the cards.
Yeah.
So the meaningful choice that we would have had in a 2-player game to tackle all these various scoring elements, they're kind of undermined, because the 46 cards that we have, the 23 that Sarah has, the 23 that I have, we're playing all but 3 of each stack.
Because you do trade hands in a normal drafting game.
So for the most part, it's just to organize and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Type of thing, which is why I think her trying to overthink all the scoring elements is a little much, because, well, there's no guarantee she's going
Right.
to do well in that respect because she has no idea what's going to come up.
Right. But the problem there is it has that potential.
Yes,
but
it has the bones.
So I think it's going to trip people up like me who overthink things. So again, you still have that cognitive weight that is at odds with the gameplay weight. It is a lightweight game, but you have all these things to think about. Even if you try not to think about them too hard, you're going to have to eventually figure them all out at the end.
Yes.
So
it's coming. It's looming.
It's coming. It's going to happen. So the good news, I guess, is that's all. I wouldn't say that's good news. That's a lot of things.
Yeah.
That do make this game pretty inaccessible.
Should we go on to?
There's one thing we identified that it does right for accessibility.
Okay. What
you do on your turn is easy, and you said that earlier, but I just want to put it in this frame of this. There is a aspect of this game that is accessible. Literally, what you do on your turn is easy. Making the decision may not be, but having a hand of 4 cards, picking one card, putting in your manner, and handing your hand over to the next person, very straightforward.
I mean, you may play with a little bit of the meeples in there, but it gives you the freedom to rearrange how you like on your turn.
Only the creeples. You cannot rearrange the room cards.
No, that's why I was saying the meeples.
Oh, sorry.
Just the meeples.
Yes.
Once the cards are in place, they're locked in. Don't mess with them anymore.
Yep.
So,
conclusion.
Yeah. Conclusion. For 2 players.
No. I mean, check out the variant. So I would say if you're buying this game for the higher player count, which is really what we recommend it for, and you want to try it 2-player, check out the variant. It might make it better. But if you're just buying this game to only play at the 2-player count, I would not recommend it.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Accessibility.
No.
Yeah, there's a few too many things in here that it's just hard to see. And if you think any one of those things is going to really trip you up, then it's going to feel bad throughout the entire course of the game.
Right.
I'd probably, just avoid the game for accessibility issues.
Yeah.
All right. Sad to say.
There we go.
That will do it for us here at Rolling with 2. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out and get a hold of us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with 2, that's TWO. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And why would you ever roll with just one when you can be rolling with 2?